Pinhead vs. Marshal Law, Law in Hell comic. Crossovers are a thing of great excitement in the superhero universe, whether it be Marvel or DC. And horror fans equally love a good crossover of their favorite villains. Today, we'll talk about an absolutely insane crossover that graced the pages of a certain comic, where the two main characters are well-known figures. The first character in this crossover is Marshal Law, who is a prominent comic book character from the city of San Futuro, a near-future metropolis erected from the ruins of San Francisco following a huge earthquake. He is a government-sanctioned superhero hunter, aka law enforcement officer or cape killer with superpowers. Law's mission is to hunt down other superheroes who have gone rogue, which he does with zeal and great delight. The other main character is none other than Pinhead, a beloved horror villain. Pinhead, also known as Lead Cenobite or the Hell Priest, is the main antagonist of the Hellraiser franchise. He initially appeared in the 1986 Clive Barker novella, The Hellbound Heart. What-if scenarios, wacky mashup storylines that don't actually matter to the official canon of a character's past, sometimes makes comics super fun and fresh to read. The following is this particular comic's premise. Marshal has a new girlfriend who oddly is also a superhero. She encourages Marshal to join a superhero group led by the winged angel named Seraph, who claims to be from the heavenly realms, but as this is a Pat Mills story, the winged angel is actually from hell. Marshal Law solves the Lamarchand riddle and finds himself in the company of none other than Pinhead and the other Cenobites. Keep watching for a complete breakdown of this super fun comic. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means the world. Thank you, and let's begin. Superhero Therapy Party Gone Wrong. The first comic introduces us to Marshal Law's girlfriend, who is also a superheroine. She's powerful, fun, and sexy, but unfortunately, it turns out that she has a soft spot for Cenobites. Her name is Supernova, and we can tell from the first few pages that she is smitten by Marshal Law and his lifestyle. They fly around San Futuro together, and she's always gushing over him. As far as her powers go, she has the ability to go and be anywhere through mental contact, being able to visit not only places on Earth, but in the astral plane and other dimensions as well. And this is how she first met the Cenobites. Before we move on, it is important to note that in this universe, Marshal Law exists. The superheroes feel no pain due to the process they undergo to become superheroes, and thus, many of them want to feel pain because that is what humanity hinges on. Guess who else is a sucker for pain? The Cenobites. And this is where the crossover begins to materialize. She reveals that she has been communicating with the Cenobites in order to make a deal with them so that they don't overthrow the world and take over the earth. But she feels sympathy and even love for them, even to the extent that she says that superheroes should unite with them and feel their pain. She then takes Marshal with her to go and attend a superhero therapy party where heroes try out various different therapies to help them combat their mental problems. However, this is not your regular therapy. Some of their bizarre techniques include urine therapy, colonic therapy, and rebirth simulation. It is in this wacky party that Marshal Law is introduced to a magnificent angel known as Seraph. However, Seraph's views on Marshal Law as a rough, abrasive, and hateful person rub him off the wrong way, and he refuses to be helped by Seraph's healing vibrations because of his holier-than-thou attitude. This upsets Supernova greatly, as she had really looked forward to introducing the two of them, and while they argue, Seraph tells the rest of the heroes that he will help them become free of all their issue and baggage, and allows them to ascend into a much happier and better realm. He uses his powers on Supernova, knocking her unconscious and sending her into a fit, and she turns green. This angers Marshal Law greatly, and this is where he is tricked into opening the Lament configuration. Horror fans are already quite familiar with what that is. For everyone else, the Lament configuration, also known as the Lamarchand configuration, is one of the world's most famous puzzle boxes. It has the ability to open the gates of hell and summon the Cenobites to claim the flesh of whomever opens the box. It's one of a number of relics that can unlock the gate. Immediately, they are transported into a completely different realm, and the artwork that follows in the pages after that is horrifyingly beautiful. Kevin O'Neill's dream is to sketch a hell full of creatively deformed devils who worship pain and live to torture. Since book 1 of Nemesis the Warlock, when he was freestyling hate-driven monstrosities across a limitless realm of devilish architecture, his art hasn't been this electrifying or this uncorked. In the pages that follow, we see a bunch of action, watching as Marshal Law takes down one Cenobite after the other. The ugly realization hits Supernova that Seraph is not really an angel, but is actually a demon who worked to get more people into hell for the Cenobites to torture when he took her hostage. And finally, this is where Marshal Law and the audience are introduced to the leader of the Cenobites, Pinhead. Interestingly, Pinhead tries to recruit Marshal Law into joining his ranks and staying in hell to carry out their sinister activities. Here, Marshal Law narrates his entire history of how he wanted to be like a public spirit who had also fallen into the trap of the lament configuration and was now being tortured in hell. He speaks about his experience in war and reminds Pinhead that he feels no pain, and with these last words, he makes a break for the exit with Supernova. However, Pinhead is not one to be defeated easily, and he traps Marshal Law in his own personal hell, a world where he's back in the war zone and can see the faces of his dead comrades and innocent civilians who died in battle. A barrage of war weapons come down on Marshal Law as he is bombarded by napalm gas, grenades, and other arms and ammunitions. Pinhead continues to torture Marshal Law in all ways possible, using the fact that Marshal Law hated superheroes and thus, in some way, hated himself. He goes as far as trying to amputate Marshal Law. This issue ends on an ominous note with the demon Seraph uniting with Supernova. There is always hell to pay. Never before have hooks ripping into diseased flesh been depicted as frequently or with such glee, nor have black abbeys of wickedness been filled with such blasphemous zeal. Pinhead begins as a model with photographic reference and evolves into a plastic and expressive creation like any other O'Neill creation. The Symphony of Suffering is performed by a musician who always has that kind of tune in his brain and doesn't get too loose too frequently. The second and final issue of the series opens with more scenes of torture as Pinhead goes to town to look on dear old Marshal Law. It looks like Pinhead has made it his twisted mission to force Marshal Law into feeling pain. He finally settles down on wanting to cut through Marshal's muscles and pull out his skeleton from his body altogether. There is heavy sexual undertone in this issue, but that has always been the way in which Cenobites look at pain. A process that gives them the ultimate pleasure, and thus Marshal Law has to deliver this pleasure to them. Finally, Supernova, quite frankly the reason Marshal Law is in this mess, speaks up and asks them what exactly they will get by inflicting this brutality on Marshal Law, and Pinhead's answer confirms the Cenobites' depravity. He unveils the power that the Cenobites answer to and follow religiously, introducing them to Leviathan, the one who thrives on the suffering of humans. Pinhead reveals that all through the history of time, it is Leviathan who engineered all wars and all suffering of man, because it is human suffering and fear that feeds him and keeps him in power. While all of this is going on inside Hell, the other heroes are still in the therapy party, remember? They begin gathering around the lament configuration box, which has now grown massive in size, and many of them want to go inside it and complete the ascension that Seraph has promised them. All of them join forces and try to break the box open. It really is a sight as heroes of all shapes and sizes attack a giant golden box in hopes that their powers will be enough to take it down. However, a door opens and all the heroes enter into Hell, where they are immediately greeted by pain-hungry Cenobites who spring their torturous methods on them before they can even realize what is happening. Pinhead, on the other hand, tells Marshal Law that superheroes serve an integral function for Lord Leviathan, who feeds on their pain and suffering. They glorify war, thus glorifying pain, suffering, and loss. While this realization hits Marshal Law hard, it is also not something that he didn't already know, and thus he gets angry because he believes that he is better than all the other heroes, and in this fit of rage, he manages to free himself from the shackles, grab Supernova, and flee. Marshal Law and Pinhead then get into one of the most epic fistfights of all time, where Pinhead headbutts him with a head full of pins. That one definitely must have hurt. And the symphony of suffering begins as Pinhead enjoys all the pain Marshal Law dishes out to him. Realizing that beating up the Cenobites isn't working, Marshal Law decides to reach into whatever human is left deep inside these monsters. Supernova suggests looking at the stashed records which contain information on the previous lives of the Cenobites. They manage to find the records and see the histories of the Cenobites, a World War I Pinhead before he got his face pierced. Here we get a deep dive into Pinhead's origin story, all the suffering he had seen during the Battle of Somme as a soldier in the First World War. However, it turns out that after witnessing all that he had in the war, he was led to Leviathan, who had given him a steel stigmata and welcomed him to hell. However, before Pinhead can cause Marshal any more damage, they run into the rest of the heroes, who stumbled into hell. All the heroes start showing off their powers in the fight against the Cenobites, and this fills both Marshal Law and Pinhead with disgust. And finally, these two find something they can converge on. The heroes fail miserably, and some of them die. However, here is where we have an unlikely ending. Pinhead lets Marshal Law go, and also gives him his blessing as Marshal tells him that these gaudy heroes dilute the memories of the true heroes that fought in the war alongside Pinhead. And finally, Marshal Law, Supernova, and the other surviving heroes return to Earth. The series, however, ends with Supernova breaking up with Marshal, as she believes that his hatred for superheroes is messing with her spirituality. Thus, Marshal Law, the hero hunter, is back on the job. This comic doesn't really have any specific point to it, but it is an extremely fun crossover. And if you're a Hellraiser fan, you will definitely enjoy the full range of Cenobites and methods of torture that this comic has to offer. It is a thoroughly entertaining read. And as far as Marshal Law comics goes, this one upholds the satirical theme of the earlier ones and pokes jabs at regular heroes whenever it gets the chance. You'll come for the story and stay for the art, which is truly the highlight of this comic. A marvelous visual experience. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.